a couple of the NFL draft gurus, Mel Kiper from ESPN and Daniel Jeremiah from NFL Network, dropped their post-free agency mock draft. So I thought you guys might be interested to see who they had Atlanta taking with the 15th overall pick. So we'll run through Kiper's mock draft, break down his selection, and then do the same thing for Jeremiah. But let's dive right into it, starting with Kiper's 1 through 4 picks. He has Cam Ward going first overall, followed by Abdul Carter, Shedeur Sanders, and then Travis Hunter. Moving along as we make our way closer to 15, Mason Graham to the Jags, Genty, Warren, and Jalen Walker. Walker probably the only player here that would catch Atlanta's attention. The Saints, by the way, went with Jackson Dart. That's going to be a failure. Michael Williams, for anyone wondering if he could be at 15, not in Kiper's mock. He went 5 picks earlier. But then we get closer to 15, and still not a lot of players off the board that Atlanta could be targeting. So Kiper, with the 15th overall pick for the Atlanta Falcons, selected Mike Green, edge rusher out of Marshall. So if you're just starting to wake up a little bit for the draft, let me fill you in on Mike Green. Here's what Kiper wrote for starters. I changed this pick at the last minute. The idea of Alabama linebacker Jihaad Campbell in the middle of the defense intrigued me, but the Falcons' need for edge rushers is too big to ignore. And I don't disagree with Kiper's thought there, that Campbell, and I even think Jalen Walker from Georgia is going to be more of a traditional off-ball linebacker at the next level who has some blitzing and pass rush upside, but there's no denying Atlanta desperately needs to improve their pass rush, and picking 15, I don't expect them to make any surprises like they did last year going with Michael Penix. Now, if you don't know who Green is, let me give you the background on him. First off, he led the country in sacks last year after playing his second season for the Thundering Herd. He transferred from Virginia to Marshall, so 2 years for Marshall. He really only had 1 season of starting experience. He's got some skeletons in his closet. During the combine, he was asked about not 1 but 2 sexual assault allegations. Neither one was ever, she was never charged with the crime or anything like that, but people believe that's the reason why he transferred from UVA to Marshall. So you look at his body of work, and you are banking on the 2024 film, tape, and production. Before that, there's just not a whole lot out there. But that tape and production from 2024 is first-round worthy. Even though he played at Marshall, I don't care too much about the lack of fierce competition. They played Ohio State in September, and he racked up some pretty good stats against some guys who are going to go in the first round. Plus, there is plenty of precedent of players who did not play at traditional Power 5 schools and have had great NFL careers. Look at Hassan Reddick, Khalil Mack, for crying out loud, Jason Pierre-Paul, the last 3 players to go from Group of 5 to the first round of the NFL draft. All those 3 edge rushers, very successful NFL careers. Not so successful with 4th of July fireworks, but still very successful careers. So I'm on board with Mike Green. For anyone that's been watching the channel since January, this is not a new name to you, but we do have to acknowledge that there are some people who don't really start their draft homework until right around now. So if you're wondering what are my thoughts on Green, I'm not going to read too much into him playing at Marshall. Throw on the tape, look at the stats, and it speaks for itself. The guy can get to the quarterback. There's no question about it. And that's what Atlanta needs more than anything right now. Now, before we look at Jeremiah's mock draft, and then we'll look at the rest of Kiper's mock, we are 20 subscribers away from our goal of 34,000. So if you haven't yet, consider clicking the sub button. It's a great way to get more Falcons draft content on your feed leading up to late April. So let's get over to DJ's mock draft because he had a very similar first 4, actually identical first 4. Cam Ward, Abdul Carter, Shedeur Sanders, then Travis Hunter. Now we start to get some difference of opinion. Jalen Walker going all the way at number 5 to the Jags. Genty still a Raider. Armand Membo, he's going to be I want to call a sleeper, a riser, that's the better word, of not a household name, but goes earlier in the draft than people think he will. Mason Graham from Michigan goes to the Panthers to pair up with Derek Brown. Jihaad Campbell goes 9. So remember that name. That's someone who Kiper liked for Atlanta at 15. Then you've got some LSU lineman along with some Texas players going afterwards, and now we get closer to 15. Malachi Starks could be a possibility. I saw when the Falcons staff went out to UGA's Pro Day, Jeff Ulbrich, the new DC, raved about the Georgia safety. But at 15, Daniel Jeremiah selected Will Johnson, cornerback out of Michigan. Now, a month and a half ago, it would have been a major long shot for Johnson to fall all the way to 15. People had him going as early as 5 to the Jags. This is my number one draft target for Atlanta. And I know I'm a little bit of a hypocrite right now, and I'm contradicting myself because everything about Mike Green I said still holds that Atlanta needs a pass rusher. But I'm going to plant my flag in the Will Johnson hill. I think he's going to be a tremendous player at the next level. And while Atlanta needs pass rush help, and I'm not trying to dismiss that, this would be the draft to wait until round 2 for an edge rusher if you really feel like Johnson's going to be that special of a player. And I believe he will be. He only played 6 games last year, but you got to go look at what he did in 2023 when he helped the Wolverines win the national championship game. He had all the accolades in the world. He's got above average size for a corner, 6'2", 194 pounds. The knock on him right now is some of the tape and just production from 2024 was, a step back from 2023. And I think the injury is a huge reason why. But there are some long speed concerns. He did not run the 40-yard dash at Indianapolis, and he is not going to run it reportedly at his pro day either. There could be some hamstring issues, and soft tissue injuries before you even get to the league is a red flag for teams. And I would not be surprised if that's a big enough red flag for Atlanta to just go, yeah, we're not going to roll the dice on this. Plus, we just re-signed Mike Hughes. We really need a pass rusher. The cons are outweighing the pros here. But Terry, if you're watching, please take a second look at Johnson. I believe Will Johnson is going to be a spectacular corner in the National Football League. Go look at what he did in 2023 when he played a full season for the Wolverines. 4 interceptions, a couple of pick sixes tossed in there, only 267 yards allowed in coverage, 0 touchdowns, and an opposing quarterback rating of 30.9. I think he is going to be that special of a player. I am willing, and this is rich coming from me of all people, to bypass an edge rusher until round 2 to get Johnson. I feel like he is that great of a prospect that in 3 to 4 years, when you see a Bleacher Report article about redrafting the 2025 draft, Johnson's going to be going top 10, no doubt. And I think he's just too good of a player to pass on. And I think pairing him, A.J. Terrell, and Jesse Bates would form one of the best secondaries in the NFL. So I am willing to throw out everything I said for this one player. I mean, there are some other guys that sure are great too, but have very little expectations of falling to 15. If Johnson's there, I'm running it in. Now, this is what Jeremiah wrote. While some inconsistencies popped up in Johnson's 2024 tape, it's hard to find big, rangy corners with his ball skills. I really echo what DJ is saying here, right? You've got the size element, 6'2". I know sometimes we make fun of the draft nerds who make way too big of a deal out of a quarterback hand size and things like that. An offensive tackle's arm length, it's got to be 33 inches, 32, and you're a guard now. For corners, height's very important, and same as wingspan. If you don't have the height, you're going to have a very difficult time going up against some taller receivers in the red zone. So that is a measurement to really put some stock into. And he checks that box. But he's not just like, oh, here's a really good lengthy athlete. No, he's got the lockdown corner traits. Put him in man, put him in zone. He's got the ball skills to show he can come up with big, game-changing plays. I would love this pick for Atlanta. Having said that, I myself can admit it's unlikely this pick happens. After taking Penix last year, maybe the Falcons love Will Johnson, and I got a man crush right now, as much as I do. But they are probably going to have to put that aside and go, we just need a pass rusher. We got Leonard Floyd in free agency on a 1-year deal. He's 32, 33. We've Got some youngish guys like Braylon Trice we're hoping has a nice bounce back here after a torn ACL, but there's not a lot in the farm system from the edge position. And it was our weakest spot last year. And there were some good edge rushers. And we just can't ignore that. And I can understand that rationalization. I'm not here to bicker with anyone about why that's a bad train of thought. It's a fair train of thought. Johnson's just my exception. That's really the only way I can put it. So, is it edge no matter what at 15? Give me a yes or give me a no down below in the comment section. While you're doing that, I just want to remind everyone, Fanatics continues to have an awesome sale right now. I mean, this sideline gear is on clearance, nearly 40% off. Go to chatsports.com/ATL sale. Got to use that link to support the channel. I put it in the comments and description of today's video, so check it out today if you have not already. Don't put it off, because if you're even half thinking about it and you come back next week, the sale could be over. So let's move along, and we'll kind of go back and forth between Kiper and DJ getting up to 32. So in Kiper's mock draft, he has Will Johnson going the very next pick to the Cardinals. That'd be an outstanding pick for Arizona. Now, as for Daniel Jeremiah, you can see he has a North Dakota State Gray Zabel going to the Cardinals at pick number 16. So let's kind of just rapid fire the rest of this mock draft, because I know everyone's wondering, well, where did everyone else go? Here's what Kiper had, 17 to 20. I'm going to pass on Shamir Stewart. I need the production, and it's just not there. Jihaad Campbell, although it falls to the Buccaneers at 19. That's your next Devin White and what's-his-face inside linebacker type of player right there. Levante David, thank you. He just keeps coming back. T-Mac, my favorite receiver in this draft class, if you're wondering, not that it really applies to Atlanta, is Matthew Golden. Jeremiah in this stretch, he had Mike Green going to the Bengals at 17, and then Colston Loveland going to the Seahawks at 18. Another edge rusher off the board to Tampa at 19. 21 to 24, Kiper not putting anyone out there that could really pique Atlanta's interest. Maybe Derek Harmon, they're like, let's replace Grady Jarrett. The best place to generate pressure from is up the middle. Harmon, a Michigan State transfer, at 6.5 sacks a year ago for the Ducks. Jeremiah in this stretch, he went Jackson Dart to the Pittsburgh Steelers at 21. That's a surprise to me. And then a couple of DBs later on. Nicky Manwari would probably be the only one of this grouping that I could possibly see going to Atlanta, but that does not seem very likely to me at all. Kiper on to 25 to 28. You've got Malachi Starks going all the way to 27. Remember, Jeremiah had him going to the Dolphins at 13. James Pierce Jr. goes 28 to the Lions. So if you're thinking, hey, if they trade back, who could they get? Here are some targets for you. As for DJ, you got Ole Miss corner Trey Amos, and then you've got Mykel Williams falling all the way to 28 to Detroit. No one's got a good sense as to where the Georgia Bulldogs going to go. I've seen him go top 10. I've seen him go all the way at the very end of round 1 to the Eagles. He's all over the first round. He's got to have a ton of fun on Zillow right now because he has no idea where he is going. And then to round it out, Kiper, he's got Walter Nolan. I think he's going to be a really good player, and on the Eagles, it's just going to make the rich richer when he replaces Brandon Graham. Kenneth Grant is someone who's got a lot of mixed reviews, but the highs are definitely there. Jeremiah, he has Shamir Stewart falling all the way to Philly to round out his first round of the mock draft. So those are the two mocks between Jeremiah and Kiper. We've got Atlanta going with Mike Green in one and Will Johnson in another. That's going to do it for us on today's show. Hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did, give us a like, give us a thumbs up down below, and I'll see everyone later.